What's that?
By ear?
I'm just tuning it by ear.
Because you have perfect pitch?
I do have perfect pitch, but the main thing is the tuning should sound a certain way, the interval should be right, but you have to figure out, if you're on your own, you just do it in any tonality you want. If you're playing with a shamisen player, or if you're playing with a shakuhachi player, you have to tune to them, because if they are limited, then I'm less limited. Yeah. Good question. Musicians can ask the best questions. And the other thing that I have to tell you as I'm going is that living in Japan all those various years, beginning 1970, I found pedagogy so interesting that it's how you teach. So, unlike the Jewish world, in which I, like you, grew up, we are really happy if someone else you're working with asks questions. That means that they're getting motivated by what you're saying, and that means you're a better teacher. But you would never dream of asking a question of your teacher. Never. It's the ultimate in being disrespectful, because she will or he will decide to give you a kernel of truth when you deserve it. But you can't ask for that, because that's really chutzpah to change. No. I learned the hard way. She just glared at me.
You all stay in the back. If you want to come up front, you can.
Yes, please, because you'll get more out of it if you do. Now, I wanted you to be involved. I think we're pretty good. But you can imagine, I'm going to be doing this. So when I do that, this thing juggles a little bit. And then I'm listening and I'm going, oh, this is a mess. So then I make a mental note and say, okay, string 7 is sharp. As soon as this hand is free, move it. But I'm still, otherwise you have to live with it. So anyway, so you're always listening. Anyway, lots of things to talk about. Now, cherry blossoms is something that everyone assumes is very, 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 it's not an old era of Japan. It's something that happened after 1860 something or other. So, and this is just Western notation. That's a whole other story, and I'm going to talk about it. But you would know this tune, because everybody who has heard anything Japanese would assume this is the main one. I'll sing it once, and you can do the best you can. I'll do it through, I'll stop, and then we'll go a second time. Sakura, yayoi no sora wa miwatasu kagi ni kasumi ka kumo ka niho izo izuru izaya izaya mini yukamu. Try again with me. That's starting to sound like something. You ready? I'll give you 4 beats to start you. Sakura, sakura, yayoi no sora wa miwatasu kagi kasumi ka kumo ka nioi zo izuru izaya izaya mini yukamu. Take a look. Let's see, it doesn't tell you that. It's about the cherry blossoms, and it says how beautiful when you look at the cherry blossoms and the blue, all that kind of, it's poetic things. So this gives you an idea. Now, did you say there was a birthday? Okay. Here we go. Same key, except I'll make it major. And you'll join me because you'll know it. And who's the birthday boy? Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bruce. Happy birthday to you. I'm gonna try that again. Okay, here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bruce. Happy birthday to you. Okay, now back to the other one. What's that?
That's the first people in the history of Temple Shalom to ever be sung Happy Birthday with this instrument.
On the Koto. Anyway, I'll get back into tune here. So the Koto came from China. Everything musical came from China. And then it went to Korea, where it got changed over in various ways. And after Korea, it got to Japan, and it got changed over in many ways. So this is like that's the usual way things were. Now, question?
Well, that was the history I wanted.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's...
Are there many players in Vancouver that you know of?
There are some. It's not a big thing, but it's hard. I should really be getting this thing tuned, which means get the strings changed once every 6 months. But there's nobody. I bought a very strange little thing. I won't explain it. And Ron learned how to use it to tighten things, but I can't do it. So that means no possibility. So I had to check. It was a funny thing when I said to you, I want to do this, and all of a sudden I thought, I haven't opened this for a while, and if Ron's not available, I hope I still have 13 strings here. Yeah.
How old is, not that specific instrument, but the instrument itself?
Well, it came to Japan in about 600, and it was used in court music. It only had 6, 7, 8 strings. It was used with a large ensemble of instruments that were used in Shinto practice. That's a religion there. But then that changed, the more influence they were getting from China, Korea. The Korean one like this is, I'd sit on the floor, absolutely. I can do this I could do this, past tense, sitting on the floor, but I'd rather have it like where I don't end up not being able to get up. So I used to, believe it or not, I'd practice for hours. And when I would do concert work with other Japanese women my age, and then, at the end, we're on the floor doing this, and the curtain closes, and everyone sort of rolls over and goes, because their feet first start getting tingly and then get cold. And you can't, you're totally, it's not working. Okay, so now, on this thing, I have a million things I want to tell you. So now, first of all, when you talk, let's turn to the back of Cherry Blossoms. That's really 3 pages later. And this is the notation. Do you see this? This is what you read from, okay? But how did that come about? Well, it came about because in 1871 or 69, when Japan had to open up to the West for offers they couldn't refuse, like military things, like they were getting bombed, whatever, not bombed, but cannon were being fired at their various ports. So a few years later, the Germans and the Dutch came in and said, and listened to some of this, and they said, oh, can we see your notation? And they said, what? And, when you have something that you're going to read, if you say Japanese, if you're talking about where's the music, the word for music is oral. The word for notation doesn't exist. It's now a new word, gakufu, because they did it all by oral tradition. It was all oral tradition. So you went and your teacher went through it with you from beginning to end and beginning to end. And it drove me absolutely crazy, because if it's a piece that is an 8-minute piece, I could repeat the first phrase, but 400 phrases later, I haven't a clue what happened back at the beginning. So for me, it's stop and start, and then memorize it like that. But anyhow, so eventually, they were convinced that with the Dutch and the German, that you have to have something written down so that people will remember it. So the Jews aren't the only ones who can't agree on things. So this is the first notation, and this is what most people use. But this is Ikuta school, and that's what I use. And there's a Seiha school, and there are other schools. I've seen 5 different kinds of notation for the same thing. So it's quite interesting how different it became. So that is one thing I wanted to tell you about. And the other thing that I learned was a friend of mine said, oh, you have to meet my grandmother. She's 98 years old, and she plays Koto beautifully, and she played with, now remember this is now 1975, this incident, and she played with the equivalent of Brahms, not Brahms, but she played with the fellow who has the same kind of recognition, and she's a beautiful player. I thought, boy, this is interesting. So I came and I sat on the Koto here, and then she was facing me on this Koto, and she said, what are you working on now? This was all in Japanese, and I gave her the piece, and it was a 20-minute piece, but I had my score that looked like this, and so she said, great. And so then I started, we tuned, and we went for 20 minutes. I'm looking at the music as I'm going, and she's playing without anything. And she's playing another part, and so I said, so you have this memorized? And she said, well, that wasn't the word she wanted to use, but she knows it. That's what she would say. And I said, when's the last time you played this piece? And she calculated, and she said, 1925. And I thought, oh my gosh. So she probably repeated it 10,000 times back then. And so that was a mind-blowing experience too. So many things are so different. And when someone asks you, do you like your teacher? And they say, yes, very strict. I thought, that doesn't translate well. So kibishi is the word. I thought, I wouldn't, if I liked my teacher, that wouldn't be the adjective I would use, but that's what it is. And you never go back and repeat a section. You go from beginning to end, beginning to end, beginning to end, even if it's very, very long. And it was driving me absolutely crazy. Anyway, now I'm going to play Rokudan do Shirabe, and this is a piece in 6 sections. Yes. Say it again, louder.
We don't know the history, how many years were you in Japan?
Oh.
You obviously spoke the language, is that correct?
Yeah. We studied Japanese before, and then first we were there from 1972 to you would find this story interesting. I got a Canada Council grant in 72 for a short-term grant. And so Ron came with me, and I studied 6 lessons a week of Shamisen and Koto in Kyoto, and I was living in Kyoto. We were living in Kyoto. And so very strict she was, and very, loud things that she didn't like, anyway. So I remember the time that I was playing and singing with it. You're supposed to sing. And she said, no. Why? And so she said, lower. And so, lower, okay. I had put it up an octave with these things, like you see, you look at this, right? And I had looked, and so it was very low, like an octave below middle C. So I said in Japanese, but women don't sing that low. And she said, yeah. And, and I thought, all right, it got me there. If you can do it, I suppose I can. But that was the end of soprano notes for me. So anyhow, so then I learned, because I had to speak to her. She had a little English, but not too much. So, and there's a million things to say, like her father was one of the famous, like the equivalent of a Brahms in Japanese music. So he was very well known, and she was not. She ended up adopting. She didn't marry. She ended up adopting one of her students. So, and which brings me to something else, but I think it's better if I just play now.
How many years were you in Japan?
Say it again?
How many years were you in Japan?
Okay, so there was the 2.5 months from 72 to 72, and then there was 2.5 years from 74 to 76, and then when the children were school age, we were there 88 to 90, and that was in a different area, not in Kyoto, but in Nagano Prefecture, which is in the north. And then we had some business connections, so that we were going once a month for a week for a lot of years, until 96. And last time we were there was 2015, but it was very interesting about all the things you assume and aren't there. And I had my own personal anthropologist there to explain things, so that was very nice. All right, so now I'm ready to go. Are you ready to hear this thing? It's music in 6 parts, 6 movements, I guess you'd say. I'm going to give you only 4, so that it doesn't feel too long, okay? Promise? Yep. Okay. So now, first thing when I started to work on this, and I played it through for my teacher, she said, that's terrible. I thought, great. Okay, why is it terrible? Question, bad. Because you stayed in a steady tempo. I thought, I have a master's in music. I should know this. But it's not the same rules. So you're supposed to stay in a steady tempo unless it says do something else. So anyway, so this was, in this style of music, dan mono pieces, you're supposed to start slow, and then then you're supposed to let it pick up speed, like going down a hill, and then when you get to the end, you put on the brakes, and then you are super slow at the end. So that's, if I had been musical in a Japanese sense, I would have done it right. But now I learned how. I won't give you all 6 movements, I'll give you only 4. Checking for the tuning. Sharp. So what'd you think?
I'm just gonna. Which hand works the hardest? I just want to show everybody. This is what she's playing.
Yes, that's a good question. So you hear this pitch? The next one up is here, right? What if I want something between? So I can do better even than a piano because I can go. See? When I first started to play, I used to wear a black leather glove because it bothered my hand so much. Maybe that's the reason I don't have any fingerprints. Seriously. When I went to try, thank you. Thank you for doing that. So when I went to get some sort of document, and it was on the American side of that thing, and the woman said, I put my fingers down for the fingerprints, and she turned my hand over. She said, "You have no fingerprints." I said, "You're right, I don't have fingerprints." So she said, "We're going to have to look into that because you may be a murderer and you filed your fingers down so that yeah." And I was about to say, "Do I look like a murderer? Really?" I mean, but anyway, that's irrelevant. But yeah, so that's, you get all this, and then the stuff in between is interesting, right? The other thing that I still do wrong, because as a musician, I've always learned, how are you? Always learned to, move with the music, and Japanese no. And so you got to be like this. So here's what a happy song looks like. And here's what a sad song looks like. So anyway, so it's like, so that took a lot of unlearning, and as I was playing for you, I thought, Wendy, you're moving into it. You're not supposed to do that. Stay still and just don't think about anything. Yes?
Is the wood that's made, that the instrument is made, is it a special wood?
Yes, but we have a few of them in Vancouver. There's one around the corner from me. It's called Polonia. If you look it up online, you'll see it. But, and it's a common word in Japan, kiri, because it's a common tree. But you can also find it at Van Dusen Gardens. There are at least 3 of them there. They have beautiful purple flower, like this, very large tree, soft wood, like balsa wood, very soft. So that's why there are a few little nicks in here. So, yeah, so this is a very nice instrument. Now, I'm going to give you, what else was I going to tell you? All right, nowhere in this whole thing does it say the name of the composer. So that was my first mistake. My first question to my teacher is, who wrote this? The first mistake is wrote. You don't write the music. There was no notation until 1870, whatever it was. So the verb is not to write. That doesn't make any sense at all. So in Japanese, the word would be tsukutta, so that means who created it, who built it, who, put it together. So you wouldn't use the word for write together with music, writing music. That doesn't make sense. So people compose music, create music, but they don't write music. So this notation of any kind wasn't around until European influence, saying that they couldn't record anything, not in 1871. I mean, that's not. So anyway, so that's one thing that I found interesting. And then another thing that is, let's see, what else did I want to tell you about this?
Are most compositions anonymous?
Say it again?
Are most competitions without authorship?
Well, these older ones, well, it's not on the page.
All the older ones don't have any authorship.
Well, older is 18-something. The piece was created, though, in 1607, something like that. And it was passed on, like it's my grand-pupil, my great-grand-pupil, and, like that, because it's passed on oral tradition. A lot of things, a lot of stories, a lot of music around the world is oral tradition. That means it's going from mouth to ears, right? And that's how you remember it, and that's how you pass it on.
So who would play this instrument? When we think about the piano, children learn it young, and it passes through families, but who would learn this?
Well, when I started in the 70s, there were more people doing koto, but now they're more doing violin and piano and things like that. So there's a little less of traditional music. As with anything, once you're involved with Japanese traditional anything, it becomes complicated because of the social expectations. And for example, when I show you, if you can see over there, that's a shamisen, and you take a look at it and you say, I saw that in a movie that geisha were playing this and that. So, you know, it's associated with different types of society. This a little bit better than that, but anyway, it is complicated. And originally, one of the funnier things was after a year and a half with this special teacher that she said, okay, I want you to, this is a big honor, I'm going to have you play a duet with certain sensei who is who's the most important teacher in Kyoto and everything. I said, oh, how nice. And it was a hard piece and everything. And then in Vancouver, I got paid for when I performed. And so I tried to ask, what would that be? I didn't know how to ask that. And so then she says to me, and you will pay? And I thought, whoa, I don't mind doing it free, but I'm not sure I want to pay to play. So anyway, that's when I tried to explain as best as I could that I'm not used to that. So anyway, she didn't make me pay, but she didn't pay me, of course. So, but it's her honor because it's not only her student who's playing with this grand whatever, but it's also a foreign student, which is very different. Oh, and by the way, all the women I played with who were about my age, in my 20s at the time, they said to me, oh, so you're a love child? And I said, what? This was in Japanese, and my natural hair color was dark brown. I'm small. I could play the instruments quite well, and so I was born in 1947, so an American GI who was over there between 1945 and 1953 would likely have gotten together with at least one Japanese woman, and the child that comes from that is a love child. So they were quite convinced that I was a love child. My father would have been a GI, and my mother would have been Japanese. And the love children are the best in the arts. They're good in music, they're good in acting, they're good in all that stuff. And the more I objected, the more they said, don't be ashamed. And I thought, I'm not ashamed. Now, what do I say to this? My mother and father, I said, my mother and father are Jewish, and they live in New York. They don't know they didn't at that time know what Jewish was. The world was divided into Japanese and non-Japanese. So I could be anything. So anyway, so I just stopped fighting it and just said, fine, I'm a love child, whatever. So, so anyway, so let's see, what else did I want to tell you about this? I have my list of things that I found most interesting. So at a lesson, when you make a mistake, you always go back to the beginning. Talk about punishment. My God. So, and to me, that made no sense, and that's one of the things. I was already finished with a master's degree, so one of the things you do is you accumulate what you think were the best techniques of the people who have taught you or who have rehearsed you. And then you keep those things and you don't keep the other things. So anyway, but I think it's part punishment, really. So anyway, so that's, let's see, Koto. Oh, all right, so a Koto is supposed to last for 10 years, and then you can use it for firewood. So, and they cost a lot of money. So the interesting thing, I have one more piece that I want to play for you. That's, anyway, on this instrument. But, so one of the things, what was I going to say? Okay, so I had two Kotos. One I bought in 72 and one I bought in 74. Gave the one to the daughter and to Jessica, and then 74. This is neither of those. This, about 10 years ago, and why does it only last that little? Because these are tight strings, and I'm pushing on it. And if it's a soft wood like it is, then it's going to buckle. So anyway, so that's why they say it's no good. Now, this is the craziest thing. This is a Japanese instrument, Koto, but it was made, I bought it about 6 years ago, and it's made in China as a Japanese instrument. What's different is that under here, I'll take it off later, usually is just a work of art inside that you look in and how pretty that is. But this goes to, when you look in a piano and you have this special thing and you tighten the strings, it's like this, or like you would for your roller skates. It's got that in there. Japanese ones do not. You just have to, and then there's a special way at the end to do it. So this was an interesting thing, so that it was, so I could, change the tuning. Sometimes anyway, a semitone or less, I can't get it. So that was an interesting thing that they did. Chinese version. Okay, so now I got stuck on, we were talking about composers. So Yatsuhashi Kengyo, who wrote Rokudan no Shirabe, which I played part of for you just now, Yatsuhashi is his surname, and surname comes first. And then Kengyo could be the first name, or it could be a title. And this was a title. Kengyo is like Sir something or other, right? It's like the emperor gives you a title for this. But there's one thing, you cannot be cited, S-I-G-H-T-E-D, and be a Kengyo. So that means you have to be blind. So what does that mean? Well, think about it. In the 1600s in Europe, great cathedrals, the organists were all blind. And that was, someone thought that, and it's got some merit to it, that if you can't see, your hearing is probably better. You have to use what you got, right? And if you can't see anything, after all, music isn't for seeing, it's for hearing. So anyway, so it was the same in Japan. So the blind ones were the ones who got who played well also. Anyway, enough talking. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a piece from, taking you back now to 1958. My aunt and uncle said, I had no interest in anything Japanese. So they said, just out of the clear blue, they said, oh, I read in the Times that there is this Japanese blind Koto player playing in Manhattan. You want to come? So I said, I had no connection to Japan at all, neither did they. So they brought me. And Eto Kimio, which he's blind, but he didn't get a title, who wrote this piece. So I can do it without score. So, checking the tuning, sharp. Okay. I'll shorten it so it's not too long for you. It's called Haru no Sugata, Forms of Spring. So same tuning. Oops. Same tuning, but could you hear how much was written in the 50s, 1950s? So could you hear how different that was? Yeah, melodic, and it was chordal. I had a lot of harmony here. Japanese music and traditional music doesn't have harmony. It has some contrapuntal stuff in it. Anyway, so this is that one, and I made it shorter, by the way, as I went. I thought you might run out of Sitzfleisch. You all know that Japanese word. Okay, so now I would like you, what was the next one I was going to do?
Nava has a question.
Oh, question, sorry. When I was a child. I thought it was interesting. I thought there were so many things that were different about it than what I knew in music. So it did pique my interest, yes. But it took a long time before that came, and it was more, what it was, Ron and I had moved to Vancouver to do graduate school, and I was working with Ron on a project to do with First Nations music. And he was doing actually gambling as an institution in First Nations music on the West Coast. And I found that there were a lot of gambling songs, so then we did it as a project together. But my advisor didn't know anything about it, so I had to go to Ron's advisors in the anthropology department. But my advisor knew something about something, which was Japanese music. So I thought, well, I'm not going to move back somewhere else. We're here. So that's how it started. Yeah. So there's that one. Let me think about what was that also. I know. These are some very well-known Japanese songs I would like you to hear. Two of them. Now tell me that doesn't feel right, because it's a minor key, so if I just do it right, it can sound. I discovered that when a dear friend who passed away, he was Jewish, but he was very involved in like 13th century Japanese something or other, so they asked me to do some music for the funeral, so I thought, I got to do something Japanese and Jewish. So that started it for me, and then continued on. Anyhow, now what about this one? Yes.
I just wonder, because
Loud so people can hear you.
some of the notes that you've played have an echo, like using a pedal and the
Yes.
piano.
It's just because I'm doing this.
Oh, I see.
I'm making vibrato. So if I slowed that down, what you're hearing is da. So it makes it stay. Yeah. It's quite pretty and very Asian sounding, right? So now here's another one that I think is really lovely. So I thought that was a really nice intercultural thing. So anyway, so I'm going to shorten what I intended to do because I want you to work a little harder. So I'm going to not do what I planned to do. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so I...
Japanese teacher, you want us to work hard?
So I studied Jiyuta for the Shamisen. I'm going to introduce you to the Shamisen in a second here. See if I get my way around. Now, I don't need these.
Thank God they come off.
Okay, these have to come off, so I have to work at it. And then we put them away. A piece called Sorambushi. I studied many kinds of Japanese shamisen music. There are many, many kinds. But I have to say, there's the really classical one, which is okay, but I really love the folk music, so that's what I really enjoyed the most. So let's see if I have everything I need here. Yes, I've got that there. All right, so to start off with, this is what the instrument looks like. Shamisen just means 3 strings. The skin on the front and the back is usually, I have one at home. I have 2 shamisens. The one I still have at home is dog skin. But this one is kitten skin in the front and the back. So, and this bottom, this thing is ivory. And this I need because otherwise when I bring the instrument this way and that way, it'll fall off my leg, which is not going to be so great. And then there is this. You see this thing? You put it on this finger, and on this finger it comes in every color, so it will match your kimono. Very important. And and because if you look at your own hand, go like this, and then let it go a little loose. You see this part in here? There's quite fleshy. There's a lot there. So if you're trying, like in here, you know, like in this part, so then it'll stop you from sliding fast, and you need to slide fast. So that's why you have this thing called a finger slider, yubi suri. So, all right, let me get this organized properly.
And when you
Yes.
said the Koto is from 600, when does this instrument?
That's a good question, very good question. Let's see. And also those 3 areas. China has several of these type of things, and they also have something smaller that you, like this, and that you play with a bow. And so quite early, I would say maybe before that. Yeah,
Around 400?
yeah.
And is it the same path that goes from China to Korea to Japan?
That's right.
But has its origin in the 400s?
I believe so. That's a
Wow.
good, I have to look that up. All right, now then there's this. This is made of ivory, and you can see what the oils on your finger does to these things. It's quite yellowed where I do that. And this is a bridge made of also ivory. You have to be really careful not to break the skin. Can you imagine going to Long and McQuaid and asking them if they have any cat skin for your shamisen? They'd probably call the police. All right, now let's see. Well, that's what's there. All right, you move. I don't know what to move. Right. Okay, I'm going to do down here. So here is the folk music. And then we have a whole other kind of notation. Let me show you this one.
One of them's in here.
Oh, is it?
We have these 2.
Oh, right, thank you. Look in the, could you describe that to them where to look at?
Okay. So if the cherry blossoms is the front, just open it. It's the inside tube.
Right, and on the left side, as you're looking at it, that's what the Koto, that's what the shamisen is doing, right? That's your shamisen notation, and turn it the opposite way, and that is what your voice is doing with the shamisen on the other side. And when it goes wiggle, wiggle, wiggle is, you know, that kind of thing. So it's very interesting. So I used to find, it was driving me crazy again it was a different teacher, and she was located in Asashi Obashi. No, she wasn't. Where was she? Anyway, it was in the Nagano area. And Nakagomi, that's what it was. So these songs, this one is Soran Bushi, and I'm going to need your help. I like this song so much, actually, that I decided to have it, well, a couple of American publishers picked it up. So I have 3 of these, 3 different songs that I arranged for voices, a cappella. So that, you know, because I was really enjoying these things. So now, as I was doing stuff with my teacher in my folk music teacher, I used to find, no, this doesn't sound the same when she repeats it, or I come back the next week and it didn't sound the same. So without her knowing, I recorded it on a teeny tiny thing, and then I found that she was changing it every week. so then I went home and then I wrote it out in Western notation, so that helped. Anyway, now you have a job here. I'm not kidding. Okay, I gotta move this guy away. And this has 4 basic tunings. And this will be our last thing that we do today, except for questions. Okay, Soran Bushi is from Hokkaido. Where in Japan is Hokkaido? Anyone know? North, that's right. It's the top island. It's of the 4 main islands. So this is a work song. You know what work songs are like? You know, it helps you, like being on the chain gang, or, you know, it helps you get through the work. Yeah, or in the coal mines, or I'm working on the railroad. Okay, so now you have to have a part. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Can you try that? And it's up in your head voice. 3. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Try again till it comes normally. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. One more time. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Then 1, 2, 3. Dokkoi, without the show. Okay? So I'll do it all, and then you're going to do it after me several times. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Dokkoi. You try it. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. 1, 2, 3. Dokkoi. Okay, so no show on the second one. Okay, here we go. 3. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Dokkoi. Great. And the other thing you need is hi, hi. Ready? Hi, hi. I used to call that chipmunk voices, but that's just how it's done. So, hi, hi. And this is kind of encouraging people to go on with their work, right? And what work are they doing in Hokkaido? Fishnets, schlepping fishnets. Okay. They don't call it schlepping, though. Okay. Oh, tuning. Okay, try to go with me. There's 3 verses. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Dokkoi. Yoren, soran, soran. Soran, soran, soran. Hi, hi. Nishin kitaka to kamome ni toeba. Watasha tatsutori. Nami ni hikechoi. Yasaen ya ansa no dokkoisho. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Dokkoi. Yoren, soran, soran. Soran, soran, soran. Hi, hi. Oko, ichiya wa goshu no makura. Asu wa defune no nami makura choi. Yasaen ya ansa no dokkoisho. Dokkoisho, dokkoisho. Dokkoi. Third and last verse. Yoren, Asaenya ansa no dokoisho. Ah, dokoisho, dokoisho. Ah, dokoi. So that's fun. And it means like heave ho, ay ay, right, like that. It's for what you do with. It's when you're working hard, you know, and whatever it does to help you. And let's see what is. I can't remember now, but anyway. So I'll pass this around, if you like. This is the choral version, which is a little bit more legible for most people. And let's see if there's anything. Questions? Any questions? Good, I'm not too late. Just a little late.
So is this played as much as the most instruments?
No, this is much less. This is much less because it's associated with geishas, and therefore the what is it? The ladies of the night and so on. So, but you know, I must say that you know, it was quite funny sometimes when the men who were running the different companies I was part of, and then we'd go to a geisha thing, and then they'd say, and our Hakujin white, you know, employee will play shamisen for you. So they really wanted me to, you know, that would be interesting. But anyway, it's a little bit less respectable. Any other questions?
Are there different sizes of koto?
Koto or shamisen?
The koto.
Yes, actually, that's a good question. They've made smaller ones so that it's not so hard to carry, but it's not as nice. It's not like the real thing. It's just an idea that they had. So.
Do they ever play them together?
Oh, yeah, so that's a great, thank you for saying that. The first piece, when I kept making mistakes by asking questions, when I learned a piece, then I was going to play it at a concert, and I did. I expected it's a solo piece, and there were like 70 other players. And I thought, oh, okay, did this composer not say this is for 1, 2, quartet, quintet? Is it for what? And so that seemed to be less important. So sometimes there were a lot of people. They were sometimes playing the same thing. Sometimes there was a second part. Sometimes there was a shakuhachi part. That's like an instrument that looks like this. And it's a very beautiful instrument, shakuhachi. It's a wind instrument. And sometimes shamisen, this. I have a shamisen part for Rokudan no Shirabe that I've played, you know, with a group. But I can never get an answer like, is this for a quartet or is this for... It seemed to not matter. So, I mean, these are your basics when you're a musician, like who wrote it, what, you know what I mean, and, you know, what was it scored for, and all that stuff, and those questions are pretty irrelevant. So, like, who cares kind of thing. So, but there's a whole other way of thinking about it, right? So.
Did you find that there was ever a prejudice against a woman from the West or a person from the West?
Well, did you see that?
Being so invested and being able to play
Yes.
these.
Yes, I got that. I got that from, you know, people would say, but you can play so well, and I'm Japanese and I can't play. And I said, well, it's not magic. If you took lessons like I did, you'd probably play the same way I do. So it has, you know, that's how I used to answer. But really what they thought was like I'm a love child. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But with your musical background from way back, I would assume, being a non-musician, that it would be easy to pick up.
Speak a little louder.
To be a musician and having been so much part of music in your life,
Yes.
that to pick up this instrument totally foreign to you to start with.
Well, there were things like I was saying, like,
Meaning the Japanese people who didn't learn, if they went and took the lessons, they might not learn as fast as you because you were
possible, but there were certain things that, you know, that worked against me, the assumptions, you know, like a teacher being mean or strict was not what I thought was a great thing, but anyway, I just ignored her. I didn't feel bad when she said those kinds of things, or she acted in what I thought was a nasty way, because that wasn't nasty for her, you know. That was being a good teacher.
Did you find as a vocalist
Well, a lot of times people don't bother singing. They just, I mean, would you sing something that was written for voice and piano, a single person doing it and not do the voice? Or not, if it's written that way, for us, that's the way you do. You don't decide to leave out a part.
Right,
So, anyway, but that's a different story for them.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how well do you speak Japanese?
How?
How well did you learn to speak
Oh,
Japanese?
pretty well. I didn't do as well with news reports because they were using these very long words that I never used in conversation, so I wasn't sure what that all meant, but anyway.
I'm just moving this a little closer to you.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Is that better? Yeah, thanks. Yes? The question is, how well do I play these instruments? Anyone can play any number of instruments poorly, right? So, I don't know. I started with piano, and then I also had flute, and then I had guitar, and I had I led a band when I was 13, and and I actually, at a Jewish community center day camp, in Tarrytown, New York, I music directed South Pacific for the kids. I thought that was hysterical. All I had was script and lyrics. I had no music, but I knew it. I knew everything from it. So I think that's pretty, that was interesting for me to try and do, Anyway, what other instruments? Mandolin and banjo. I played shakuhachi a little bit, never did well. That's about right. That's about it. Oh, I tried to play the French horn, but Jessica was a baby and she cried every time I played, so I stopped.
There's a lot of similarity in sound between that instrument and a banjo.
Absolutely. One of the things I had planned to do for you, which I can do. What do I have here? Okay. I did a different tuning. And the other one I had planned, David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam. So yes, it does sound like a banjo. So yeah.
Well, it's a similar tradition in that you never wrote down the music. There was no such thing as written music. It was all oral tradition.
Right.
Passed down from banjo teacher to
Absolutely.
banjo player. And it wasn't until musicologists came to Appalachia and they started writing things down. But for many, many centuries, it was the same tradition of teacher-student transmission.
Right.
Never wrote anything down.
I heard something very interesting where there were especially Jewish New Yorkers who were interested in Appalachian music. They came down, and the 50th person or so who came to this shack in Appalachia and asked for this tune, the guy thought about it for a second and he said, "Don't you people have a music of your own?" There were so many of them. Yeah. So I guess that, any other questions for me? No?
I have one more.
Sure.
Are there many opportunities for you to play in Vancouver?
I made lots of opportunities. I was with an ensemble when I first got back from Japan, and Takeya Yamashiro and I played everywhere. And then also, finish your master's degree, right? And then I say, I'm gonna make a living with Koto and Shamisen. So you have to be like 24 and stupid to think that's a possibility. So I was both of those, and so I thought about how will I, as they say nowadays, monetize this. And then I found that there were, let's see, Japanese, I forgot, in social studies, was Japanese stuff was going on for grade 6, and First Nations music was going on in grade 4. So I figured out what I could do that the kids would like, and then I would work with the social studies teacher and get them to do these, the Sahal songs and what you have to do when you do the Sahal songs, and that was for the First Nations, and then this, and so I was twice a day, 5 days a week. So, the only problem was, whatever they pay me, I have to drive out to Surrey or I have to drive to somewhere to do this thing, and I have to schlep these instruments or not. And so, all in all, I thought maybe this isn't a great idea. Maybe I better come up with something that's a little more ironclad to make a living. So, yes.
Do you get involved with the Nikkei place at all?
With the Nikkei place? No, I haven't. But in the early days, there was a lot of negativity, because they didn't, they had gone through some things, not like our Holocaust, but they had gone through some things during World War II, and they weren't especially happy. They didn't take it as a nice thing that you were interested in their culture. It was a little more like expropriation rather than flattering. So they didn't really like the idea. So I didn't try. It's, I'm not trying to be Japanese. So, and I'm not trying to compare people who suffered with this and that. I didn't suffer, but our people did. Yeah.
I think one of the ways that it's been really interesting to see you bring this music from Japan that you were working on and performing into other things. Maybe you can mention when you have Yoma Showa piece.
Yeah.
That's like you arrange it like you would for the Koto.
Yes,
Like that.
that's right. I have done that. So it was the time of when Mr. Sugihara first, he passed away, but the Sugihara family, we know about that. I'm not going to explain it because I'm pretty sure you know. So when we were doing something in his honor, it was something that was Japanese Jewish. That was one of the first things that I thought was interesting because it was here through the Jewish community, and one of his children was here because he had passed away. So anyway, so that was a number of years ago. Yes, it's nice to try to combine those, and that original thing with that friend who was a specialist in things Japanese but grew up Jewish. So that's why, for his funeral, that's why I wanted to do something both, because I knew he felt something about his Jewishness. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's so amazing to learn from you and see this whole new thing. We get to see you behind the piano or doing other things, but I've never seen this side of you before. This is so fun.
Please, on your way out, don't hesitate to come up close,
Yeah.
because I can tell you that the view from here of the Kyoto is so different than even just the second row. So
Yeah.
please feel free to come up and
Come check it out.
a close-up
And then
look.
make sure to grab some coffee, tea, and snacks in the social hall. And you can give us a little bit.
And you can try playing the koto. I've tuned it already, so.